Hello everyone, I am back with another video. Today sharing something pretty special. This is 12 years in the making, my journey collecting 100 platinum trophies. We're going to get into it all, the 100 games that make up that list, my reason for getting into trophy collecting, and it's kind of an ebb and flow roller coaster in terms of when I was going really hard on collecting trophies and when I kind of have taken a hiatus over the years. So it should be quite a bit of fun for folks that are into trophy collecting, but really treat this as a more longer form audio, video podcast of sorts. I hope it finds you well, but you're probably going to be better off listening to this while you're playing games, while you're browsing eBay or exploring the web. This is not something that's going to be very engaging in the sense that there won't be any gameplay footage that I'm clipping through. What we're going to do is go through my PSN profile and kind of give some color to the 100 games that make up the list, why I went for certain games, how I, got the, as some would describe, dirty platinums like My Name is Mayo and Foxyland over the years. Yes. And we'll talk through whether or not I'm ashamed or I have any regrets for getting certain platinums, and if I have any regrets in getting 100 platinums in general and just kind of embarking on this trophy collecting journey. So it should be lots of fun. Hopefully it finds you well. Kick up your feet. Again, play a good game while you're listening to this. And please let me know in the comments section if you have any interest in kind of double clicking into my trophy collecting journey beyond just the games that make up the 100 platinums, like rarest trophies, a comprehensive deep dive into all of the games that I've played across the PlayStation 3, 4, 5, and the Vita over the past 12 years. If there's any interest in doing a deeper dive like that, leave me a comment below. Let me know what are some of your favorite platinums that you've gotten over the years. Are you into trophy collecting? Are you not? Why? I would love to hear from you down in the comments section below. But without further ado, enough introductions. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, before we get into the actual 100 games that make up that list of platinums, I think it's important to also kind of take us back to where it all started, where I first got my PlayStation 3 and started collecting trophies. We're not going to go into the game specifically, but I think it's important to kind of bring up this graphic here just to kind of give you an idea of when things went off the rails a little bit, okay? But even before that, taking a step back, I was never big on the PlayStation 3 when it first released. I had a Wii, I had an Xbox 360, and it wasn't until a very gracious listener of my YouTube channel or watcher of it back in the day sent me a PlayStation 3 and a handful of games in 2012, I believe, to be exact. And so that's when I started earning trophies from the games that I was playing. But even during the Xbox 360 days, I loved achievements. I would occasionally gonna go out of my way when I was playing certain games to earn them, but I wasn't going out of my way to play particular games that had easy achievement lists. So you can pull up my 360 game catalog, if you will. I don't have the Avatar game or a lot of those licensed games that came out alongside certain movies that were easy achievement lists. It just was never something that I was doing. No shade to people that did that whatsoever. It just, when I was playing the 360, wasn't something that I was doing. And even during these early years, as you can kind of get a sense from the trophy progression year over year, that also wasn't something I was doing. I was primarily playing a lot of the exclusives like the Uncharted games, Little Big Planet, Killzone, things like that. And it wasn't until 2015 that I got my PlayStation Vita. And even with that, I got Hot Shots, Killzone Mercenary, Rayman Legends, Little Big Planet on the Vita, and a few other games. But as you can see, primarily a flat line here with the trophies that I was earning. It wasn't until around 2017, 2018, I can't remember specifically which year it was, but that's when I got the PlayStation 4. And that's kind of when I almost had a resurgence in interest in the achievement trophy collecting that I kind of had back in the 2007, 2009 era with my 360. Again, not necessarily going out of my way to get achievements back then, but I kind of took a turn with the PlayStation 4, and as you'll eventually see when we get into the games that make up my 100 Platinums, I played stuff like My Name is Mayo, Foxyland, and some of those other 99-cent games that you can get in the PSN store. But then we get into the 2019, 2020, 2021 era. COVID obviously hit in 2020, and this is when my good friend Blinkoom we started a trophy collecting rivalry, if you will. And I remember he messaged me years ago, and it was around this time he sent me a DM on Discord and was like, hey buddy, I have whatever he had at the time. It was maybe like 20 platinums, and I maybe had like 30 something. And he said, we're pretty close, and I just want you to know, do with this information what you will, I'm coming for you. And it was kind of this playful rivalry early on. It got pretty heated over the years. As you can kind of see, I kind of went nuts between 2021 and 2023 really was when kind of the heat of the rivalry was going on. And we were just going crazy. I mean, it was like a heavyweight boxing bout where Mike Tyson and whoever Mike Tyson fought, I'm not a big boxing fan, but it was just blow for blow. I would pull ahead a couple platinums. He would pull ahead a couple platinums. And we were just kind of like parallel for so long, just going back and forth. It was wild stuff. We'll get into more of that once we get into these specific games. But it's important to note that in 2023 is when I hit 100 platinum trophies. And that's when I kind of like just took a break. I was like, no, I was exhausted, to be honest with you. And I felt like I had gotten to a point where I put so many restrictions on myself with the types of games that I was playing, and so much of what I was playing was trophy motivated. And this is what I'm particularly interested in hearing what folks have to say when trophies and achievements entered the scene. How much did that impact the games you were playing? How often were you pulling up achievement or trophy guides and roadmaps before you put a disc in your system or before you purchased a particular game? Because I know for me, especially during this trophy rivalry era with my friend Blinkoom, it was the first thing I did. It was, okay, I'm in the mood for maybe an RPG, but like, what do the trophy lists look like? And if the trophy lists weren't conducive to platinums, I'd move on to the next genre. Okay, let's play a first-person shooter. And I felt like during that time, I cheated myself out of playing so many great games and having so many great gaming experiences that it affected the reason that I play games to begin with, which is very much to just enjoy a game experience. Whether that's a 60 to 80 hour JRPG or a 8 to 10 hour first-person shooter or a 3D platformer, visual novel, whatever it is, trophies became the first box I had to check before starting that game. And I didn't like that. So once I hit 100 platinums, I took a year hiatus, full year. I think I earned my 100th platinum in April and took a year off. And for me, it was a really healthy break to kind of reframe my thinking as to why I play games, and certainly exploring libraries and series and other consoles outside of PlayStation, because for those many years, I was only playing PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 3 games to ensure that I was continuing to stack up those trophies. So I think it's important to provide some of that context before jumping into the 100 Platinums. We'll kind of provide additional details into that as we get into it. But I also think it'd be great to have a kind of one-on-one discussion with Blinkoom at some point to talk through both of our mindsets as it relates to trophy collecting, but also how we were kind of pulling up each other's profiles on our phones. I had the app downloaded on my phone and was like, what's Blink doing today? I'm sure he was doing the same for me. And it would be fun and I think really interesting to have a conversation between he and I at some point, just exploring that time frame or that time while we were kind of duking it out, collecting PlayStation trophies. But enough about statistics. Let's kind of shift gears a little bit and get into my 100 platinums. Again, as I said at the top, if there is any interest in doing a deeper, comprehensive review into my PlayStation trophies over the course of the past 12 years, leave a comment below. We can certainly do that. I love how PSN Profiles kind of categorizes and organizes certain things. You have trophy milestones, rarest trophies. We can double click into all these different things if there is interest in the future. But what I'm going to do is filter this on platinums, and we're going to go all the way back to the beginning to check out my first platinum to my most recent. As you can see, post-retirement, post-hiatus, we've gone back. We've earned 4 more platinums since the 100, or the original 100, so we'll definitely get into those as well. All right, platinum number 1. I don't think there could be a platinum more representative of my taste than Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. One of my favorite games on the PlayStation 2. I was thrilled when they had a trilogy remaster release for the PlayStation 3. And so Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, first platinum, I earned it in 3 days, which is kind of wild. And to give some context to this one that I think is actually pretty interesting, I was on an internship. I took a break, a semester off college, and I was like 2.5 hours away from my university and like 3 hours away from home. And I remember just being, must have been like, what, 18 at the time or something like that. This is going to be amazing. I'm going to work from 8 to 4. I'm going to come home and just play video games all night for 8 months. And that was fun for about 2 weeks. And then it got pretty lonely, and video games and Netflix just didn't sound as fun as it did in my mind going into that experience. But we tried to make the best of it. And Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, our pals Murray and Bentley, certainly kept me company. Outstanding franchise. Progressively maybe gets not as great in my personal opinion. I think Sly 2 is every bit as good as the first, if not better. But 3 kind of did the Spyro or Crash Bandicoot effect, where they just try and add more and more with each subsequent game. And Crash Bandicoot's probably not the best example. Jak and Daxter is another one where they just try and add more and more with each subsequent entry. And it's like, let's just keep this game to what made it special in the first place. We have our pals, our friends, lots of collectibles. Let's just collect a bunch of stuff and have fun. But yeah, Sly Cooper, perfect first platinum for me. And then shortly after that, Sly 2, Band of Thieves. Oh my gosh, I remember playing this game for the first time at my buddy's house, and just these open environments instead of kind of these more focused linear levels that you are in was just so mind-boggling to me at the time. Absolutely loved it. But yeah, great second platinum. And then third, I would say out of my circle of friends on the internet and off, I consider myself Yooka-Laylee's biggest fan. Yes, it's not Banjo-Kazooie. I don't think it was ever intended to be. I'd love to do more of a retrospective review of Yooka-Laylee in the future, but another game that I shockingly got the platinum in 3 days and 4 hours. I can't even believe that. I remember the day I went into GameStop, I bought this and Ni no Kuni 2 and Revenant Kingdom. I remember talking to the GameStop clerk, and I was like, yes, I like 3D platformers and RPGs. And she's like, you should get these 2 games. And surprisingly, when Yooka-Laylee, the lead up to its release, I wasn't following the Kickstarter because I was in college and was just kind of really out of the loop for certain gaming news during that time of my life. But this game, for me, checked all the right boxes. Absolutely love Yooka-Laylee. And yeah, I'd love to do more of a retrospective review at some point, kind of doing a deeper dive into why I love it, did it live up to the hype, everything in between. So first 3, pretty clean list of platinums. And I guess it's also worth noting that 2013, I earned my first platinum. 2014, a year later, I earned my next. And I went 4 years without getting another platinum. That's kind of wild. So to this point on my PlayStation Vita, I didn't get any platinums. And it wasn't until I got my PlayStation 4, which would have been, I guess, probably around spring 2018, maybe fall 2017. It was shortly after I got married that I got my next. So quite a gap. And then I think Yooka-Laylee kind of triggered something in my brain This is when I kind of went full on the Avatar game on Xbox 360. Like, wait a second, there's easy platinums out there, and all I have to do is pay 99 cents on the PSN store and break my wrist clicking the X button like 10,000 times playing My Name is Mayo? Sounds like a good time to me. Yeah, that's the 4th platinum. Here's the thing. Am I ashamed that this shows up on my 100 platinums list? No, not at all. Because it's fun. This is all in good fun to me. It's just some list on the internet. Anyone can pull it up, take a look, throw me some shade, give me a hard time. That's fine. Truly. My Name is Mayo being here does not keep me up at night. But I understand there are trophy purists out there that want a clean list of platinums, and that's totally fine. I don't, and I can live with it. So it's all good. Although I remember Blink, he recorded a video more recently around trophies, and someone was in his comments section swearing that My Name is Mayo 1 and 2 had these like heart-wrenching stories, super compelling, and I'm like, listen, I don't know what game you are playing. I just clicked X on a Mayo jar for like apparently 3 days. You can do this in like an hour, but it took me a while to actually get all the trophies apparently. If there's a story there, I completely missed it. I was probably watching someone on Twitch or had a YouTube video up, listening to a podcast while I played that. So if there is a good story there, I missed it. Next, we get into a couple good ones. The Walking Dead and The Walking Dead: A New Frontier. This is interesting, and one of the things I love about these types of timestamps is I have a pretty vivid memory, and even though this is only 5 years ago, but my wife used to work for a Japanese manufacturing company, and she traveled to Japan all the time. And I remember, with her not being very into scary movies, scary games, I'll oftentimes play a lot of these things or watch horror movies while she's out and about traveling for work. And so I ended up binging the entire Walking Dead series in like a week and a half. 1, 2, 3. And this was near the lead up to the final season. I also did the Michonne chapters. Anything Telltale's Walking Dead related, I played it in a matter of weeks. And this was a replay for me on PlayStation. Originally played it back when it released on the Xbox 360. Outstanding. One of my favorite games ever. I consider it, The Walking Dead, all 4 seasons, as one complete gaming experience. For me. Not for everyone. Season 3 isn't too great. I think they wrap everything up really well. If you've only played the first couple seasons or the first season of Walking Dead, highly encourage you, please. Play it all, people. It's so good. Lee, Clementine, outstanding stuff. And seeing Clementine's journey over the course of the 4 seasons is it's just so freaking good. So 2 pretty strong platinums back to back. Got these in 2 days. Like I said, wife was in Japan. I was binging Walking Dead. Next up, we have a not so well-renowned game, Drowning. It's another kind of like couple of dollars. As long as you kind of play through the game, maybe pick up a couple collectibles, you can get the platinum. Am I proud to have this? Of course not. Am I ashamed? Not so much. Next, we went back to Sly Cooper on the Vita, because why the heck not? It's one of my favorite series ever. Especially the first 2. We replayed that a couple months after Drowning. Took a year to do that, so I was probably just chipping away at that over time while hanging out, watching TV shows, playing the good old Vita. That's good stuff. Next one, Little Adventure on the Prairie. Another ridiculous little side-scrolling platformer. You basically play through this beginning to end. You could probably finish it in about an hour. Clearly, I did this in probably 2 or 3 sittings because it took me a day and 56 minutes. I love how precise they are to get this platinum. So if you're into the 99-cent games, you want to stack up your platinum list and you don't mind having a couple dirty ones in there, Little Adventure on the Prairie, look no further. This is kind of when we went on a roll, looks like, over the course of a couple months here. Jack and Jill DX, another kind of side-scrolling platformer, 18 minutes, 33 seconds. And that's not even a world record, because you can probably get the platinum in less than 10 minutes, if I had to guess. And what else could I possibly be doing on Christmas Day? Spend time with your family? Get out of here. I'm going to play Jack and Jill DX, earn myself a platinum, and continue to rise the ranks. Yeah, that actually... Am I ashamed to have Little Adventure on the Prairie? Not so much. We played that on the 6th of November. Am I ashamed to be playing some Dirty Plats on Christmas Day by myself, huddled in a corner somewhere? Maybe just a little bit. That probably could have spent some time elsewhere, watching Elf or A Christmas Carol or something. Next up, we had Foxyland, another side-scrolling platinum that you can get for pennies. Very cheap game. 1 day, 18 minutes. You can probably earn it in less than an hour. Not a great game. Not a great platinum. Deep Space Rush. I feel like this is kind of like a run and gun, if I remember. It could be a vertical or horizontal shooter. Another cheap platinum. Earned this in a day, 22 hours. Nothing to be proud about, that's for sure. But next up, we have Game of Thrones. Do you know that Telltale of Walking Dead fame also made a point-and-click story-based adventure based on the Game of Thrones TV show? They did. And it is glitched to all heck. Not game-breaking, but when I played it, there were a couple times where I had to kind of reload my save. Towards the end of the game, I think during the final scene, like all hell breaks out, and I just remember like there was the clanking of swords, and it almost sounded like you could have clipped it and put it into a song as kind of like a background beat. I died, and then it reloaded my save, and the clanking of swords just continued. That same clanking of the previous scene. So I finished that moment in the game. The final cutscenes are playing out, and this random like clinking of swords beat continues to just play throughout the rest of the end sequence. So that wasn't great, but overall, pretty fun game. If you like The Walking Dead, especially if you like the Game of Thrones TV show or you read the books, I highly recommend getting it. A little pricey though. I remember paying at the time certainly north of $25 for a physical copy, and I don't think you can get this anymore on the PSN store because of licensing issues, so keep an eye out for a physical copy. Again, I binged that pretty quick too, as you should if you're ever playing the Telltale games. And goodness gracious, I didn't know this. I beat The Walking Dead 3 times on PlayStation, so 4, Vita, and PS3, and I've beaten this on 360. I've beaten this game 4 times. Kind of wild stuff. I probably didn't do the 400 Days DLC, which is why I'm missing some of the trophies there, but earned the platinum there in 3 days, 3 hours. And then we get into 4 pretty cheapo, dirty platinums. Midnight Deluxe is kind of like a fun, actually a decently fun game. You have this like little square box, as you can see there, and you have to like, almost as if you're playing a putt-putt golf type of game, and you kind of pull the cursor back and fling this little thing. The better descriptor is probably Angry Birds, and you flick this little box to try and get into the goal zone. And there's all kinds of like obstacles that you would see in a Super Meat Boy type of platformer that you have to avoid, and the fewer flings or clicks to get your box in, the better your score. But I think with this game, you really just have to complete all the major levels and you get the platinum. Peasant Knight, another goofy 2D platformer, not great. Random Heroes, I think this is a side-scrolling shooter. And Thunderpaw, I think is a another 2D platformer you're playing as like a fox or a bear or something like that. So nothing great. 4 cheap platinums. The amount of money that could have gone into actually playing a genuinely great game for all of the money that I dumped into these cheapo platinums. You live and learn, I suppose. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Oh my goodness, what a great remaster or remake this was of a pretty great licensed 3D platformer of the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox era. If you grew up watching SpongeBob like I did, or even if you didn't, this is a really competent 3D platformer. It's not too aggressive with the trophies that you have to earn to get the plat. It's very much beat the game, collect all the collectibles, and it's a good time doing so. All your friends like Sandy, Patrick, Mr. Krabs, and Squidward are there along for the ride, and you have some kind of the signature SpongeBob tunes playing in the background to kind of complement this game. It took me 4 days and 3 hours, and this is we are kind of in peak COVID time right now. My wife and I were still living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I was to kind of try and retain sanity during those quarantine months and years, earning some platinum trophies. Next up, we have Jigsaw Abundance, another cheap platinum game. But if you like jigsaw puzzles, it's actually pretty decent. You only have to do a handful to earn the platinum, but they have all kinds of different themed puzzles that you can do with very chill music playing in the background. So if you're looking for something that is kind of relaxing, a way to de-stress, check out Jigsaw Abundance. And if I'm not mistaken, I feel like they have a number of these on the PSN store. I only went for the 1 platinum, and it only took me an hour to do it, but pretty relaxing game if you like jigsaw puzzles. These next couple are dirty plats. We've got Super Destronaut DX. This is a Galaga clone, so decent game, but again, it's very much just there for the platinum. But if you like Galaga or Space Invaders or things like that, decent enough game, and you can probably get it for $1 or $2. Storm Boy, Road Bustle, Prehistoric Dude. I can't really confidently recommend any of these games to anyone. This is kind of a sort of a walking simulator story-based game where you, as the name implies, play as this boy. I don't even really remember what happened in the story. Again, I was really only playing this game for the platinum. Road Bustle is kind of this bizarre physics-based game where it's kind of like ragdoll physics. You're kind of wandering these environments. I don't really remember much of this game either. That's the thing. You do so many of these cheap platinums, and you're not playing the game to experience something memorable or even fun. You're just doing it to stack the plats. And candidly speaking, that's exactly what I was doing here. Prehistoric Dude sounds and looks so much more interesting than it actually is. It's just a pixelated kind of 8-bit platformer that is very much there to be a easy platinum. But Prehistoric Dude has a nice ring to it, and I feel like there was a game on the NES or the Mega Drive or the Genesis or something like that that had a similar name and was set in kind of a similar setting. But anyways, we move on, and we're going to kind of sneak some strong games into the 100 Platinum mix now. We've got Spyro the Dragon from the Reignited trilogy. One of my favorite series ever. I grew up playing these games. It's probably not in frame, but just under my mic here, you can see my original PlayStation 1, where I played mostly Ripto's Rage, but I played the first game and Year of the Dragon as well growing up. Ripto's Rage was my favorite, but you can't go wrong with Spyro. It took me a year and 6 months to get the platinum. I probably beat the game when the Reignited trilogy first came out, and then I went back and cleaned up the plat. And one thing I'm probably not going to do for a lot of these, at risk of spoiling, but also because if I click into it, it'll throw off the page, is go in and look at the individual trophies necessarily. I just don't really feel like for the purposes of what I'm trying to accomplish with this video, it'd be worth it. But just know it took a year and some change, a year and a half to be exact, to earn this particular platinum. But these are really fun. They They did surprise me a little bit with their trophy lists in the Spyro Reignited trilogy, where it wasn't just beat the game and collect everything. You oftentimes had to do very specific things in particular levels, like blow fire on each enemy in the level, or complete in a certain amount of time, or whatever. Let's take a look. I just lied. Let's take a look at this one. Defeat Toasty without getting hit. So one of the bosses, you have to do that. Use a cannon to dispatch a taunting Nork. Charge a vulture. Flame every vulture in Cliff Town. Those types of things. So in 3D platformers, my favorite types of platinums are where it's very much just beat the game, collect all the collectibles. When you have lists like this, it really forces you to have a guide up, collect a trophy, look up the list again, go to a level, fast travel to a certain level, do the thing, pull the list back up, and that to me is just very disruptive to the gaming experience. And but it was worth it for my boy Spyro. You can't beat it. Yeah, like I said, we're gonna have to scroll all the way down here, but no worries. This is very close to the time where Blink messaged me, and between my last break in recording, hopefully it wasn't too disruptive in the recording that you saw, I have a series of messages that Blink and I exchanged that I will be pulling up in Discord, so stay tuned here shortly for that. Thunderpaw, I already earned this on PlayStation 4, also got it on Vita, because I couldn't help myself back then. One of the absolute best games you can play on PlayStation 5, one of my favorite 3D platformers ever, Astro's Playroom. Such an excellent showcase for what the DualSense controller can do at the launch of the PS5. Also just an incredible celebration of PlayStation's history. Phenomenal soundtrack. Just chef's kiss all around. And at the time of this recording, there was a state of play yesterday in Astrobot. A new Astrobot game is coming this fall, and I cannot wait. Oh my goodness. This is just such a wholesome and enjoyable 3D platformer and an excellent platinum trophy to earn. I still have one unearned trophy. I need to do some speedrunning stuff, so probably need to get around to 100%ing that at some point here in the near future. Continuing with the Reignited trilogy, we have Spyro 2, which is also just excellent stuff. Ghost of Tsushima, my favorite game on the PlayStation 4. Still need to get quite a few trophies on the... I don't think that's DLC. I think that's exclusive to the multiplayer, if I'm not mistaken. And you can see it took me 5 months and 2 days. This was a weird one where it released, I think, a few weeks before The Last of Us Part 2, or a few weeks after. I can't recall. And I played it for a couple hours. I enjoyed it, but I didn't play it at the right time. I'm sure folks can relate where you know that a game is very special, but it's just not clicking for you. You're not playing it at the right point in your life. And so I'm like, no, I need to table this. I can't force myself to play this game because it's not going to click the right way or hit the right way. And then a few months later, over the holiday break, I ended up powering through. It was my game of the year that year over The Last of Us Part 2. Ghost is fantastic. I cannot wait to see what Sucker Punch does next with that series. Midnight Deluxe got this one again, but this time for the Vita, so not gonna harp on that. New Super Lucky's Tale, another favorite 3D platformer of mine. This also made it on my top 25 PlayStation 4 games list. You can check out that video if you haven't already. Just delightful. You can dress Lucky up in all kinds of unlockable outfits, kind of A to B level design. Just a terrific little 3D platformer that you don't want to miss if you're a fan of the genre. And pretty easy platinum. You just got to collect everything, beat the game. It's good stuff. Not too egregious. Adam's Venture Origins is terrible, to put it lightly. It is a poor man's Uncharted, if you will. It clearly borrows inspiration from the Uncharted series, and it's just goofy, janky fun. If you are a trophy hunter, I'd recommend picking it up. You can get it for super cheap. But if you're a huge fan of like the newer Tomb Raider series, Uncharted, those action adventure type games, and you're hungry for more, just replay Uncharted. There's no reason to pick up Adam's Venture Origins if you're not a trophy collector. It's jank, it's a mess, it's really not that fun. Next, we get into some of my favorite 3D platformers. Again, Jak and Daxter, the precursor legacy. I was eating good around the holiday season here. New Super Lucky's Tale, skip Adam's Venture, Jak and Daxter, one of the first PS2 games I ever got. I'll never forget walking onto Sentinel Beach, hearing that theme play, collecting all the precursor orbs. Oh, the writing is just so witty and fun, and I just love how simple Precursor Legacy was. But I totally get it. Lots of games were trying to capitalize on the success of the Grand Theft Auto series, and Jak 2 was no exception. I vividly remember going to a friend's house, and similarly when playing Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City, where you're just causing chaos in the town, increasing your wanted level, my friend and I would do the same thing in Jak 2 and not progress the story a whole lot. So it wasn't until playing the remaster on PlayStation 4 that I finally played the game to completion. And I did enjoy it quite a bit, but I think Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy, is timeless. I think Jak 2 and 3 more so show their age with that kind of Grand Theft Auto 3 open world setting that they're trying to go for. I don't think it's as fun as as the first game. Life is Strange. My goodness, this game is very heavy, but I really enjoyed it. I believe great podcast, The Cartridge Club, years ago back in 2020, they were playing this game for that particular month as a community, and I also played the game alongside the community and really enjoyed it. I still need to play, I think Before the Storm is the other one, and then, of course, Life is Strange 2 and Strange Colors or something like that. I can't remember which. There's been a couple of them. Bottom line, I haven't played them, and I need to, because I really did enjoy this first game. All right, we're shifting gears ever so slightly, briefly, just to show you and give you a little bit of insight into how intense this rivalry was between my friend Blink and I, as it related to this trophy collecting. So I don't know if this is the first message that he sent me, but I literally, and Blink and I talk a lot, I scrolled all the way to the top of our Discord message history and screen captured these to cement them in history, to make sure we never lost sight of them. We could always go back and see how it all started. And so from what I found, this is the first message that he had sent me to basically kickstart this rivalry. He took a picture of both of our profiles, comparing our stats. So I was at that time, this is December 2020, sitting at 29 platinums. He had 24, and he said, "I'm coming for you, boy." And this is where it all started. So I have a series of these messages. Shortly after that, I was like, game on, man. All right, like, do not send me a message like this if you are afraid of putting on the gloves and actually stepping in the ring, because I'm ready to go. And so he shortly after that said, "I'm ready for this battle. 3 in a row? Gosh, I'd hate to be my opponent right now." And this is all in like a day that these messages were exchanged. So he got Shady Part of Me, Spider-Man, 13 Sentinels. Yes, you think that bragging about trophies that I got 4 years ago is a flex. Charming. I can't wait to clean the last few up as part of the wave that drenches you. And Captain Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly, if you're a fan, Nathan Fillion, was kind of just like, wow, okay, this guy means serious business. This is a lot to kind of take in all at once. May have underestimated you, but this war is just beginning. You better watch yourself. And we were kind of just exchanging all these little gifts. He got 2 Bloodborne trophies on the 17th. Said that's really cute. I'm about to platinum Ghost of Tsushima, which will also be my 30th plat and 4,000th trophy. To which he responds, all right, well, 1, that's awesome. 2, egg in my face. 3 days later, If you thought your Ghost Platinum brought you some breathing room, think again. Battle for Bikini Bottom, Rehydrated Edition. He got the plat. Classic, use the Twilight GIF. I'm not afraid of you. I may or may not find it impressive that you got the platinum in a day though. And we just keep going. How I imagine you must be feeling now, a timeline, and this is when he kind of goes crazy with his back and forth messages. So he this is insane. A progressive series of screenshots, right? So 4 trophies away from the platinum. That's so Raven, chewing gum, freaking out, shaking in my boots. I'm like, oh my gosh. 58. He sends another one. I don't know what this is from, but the dude from the more recent X-Men movies. He's sweating profusely, freaking out. 61, got the platinum, and then Buddy the Elf. No! Freaking out. And yeah, it just kind of kept going. But was I going to stop? Absolutely not. Rivalry is still on. Keeping in mind, this is a matter of like a week and a half that we're sending these back and forth messages, platinum for platinum, punch for punch. I got new Super Lucky's tail. It will mean absolutely nothing. Dr. Evil. Right. So that is just 2 weeks. So imagine us duking it out over the course of several years. It was a lot. And like I said, it got to a point for me where I was like, all right, man, you know what? You made it to 100 plats first. I had to give him his flowers, give credit where credit was due, but I couldn't keep up. And I think he is sitting like 50 odd platinum trophies ahead of me now. So please, please, please go check out Blink's profile or his YouTube channel. I'll have a link below. An incredible friend of mine. And yes, we threw some tough punches at each other over the course of this multi-year trophy collecting journey, but it was all in good fun, truly. And I think it's certainly worth us hopping behind the mics together and unpacking this rivalry in greater detail at some point in the near future. So hopefully, maybe, stay tuned for that. But we must continue talking through my platinums on the road to 100 here. Like I said, Life is Strange. We already talked about that one. Old Man's Journey. This is a fun little indie game where you're playing as this man, kind of packing a lot of these events that take place over the course of his life, and you're almost transforming the environment so that he can kind of navigate these hills and levels to kind of get to the end of the game and kind of experience this tearjerker of a moment. It's good fun. It'll run you a couple hours. You'll probably pay a couple bucks. I think you can get it across all platforms. Excellent soundtrack. I actually have the soundtrack on vinyl. It's that good. So highly recommend it. A little bit of a tearjerker, but a great indie you don't want to miss. Jack and Jill DX. Got this on the Vita. We already got that on PS4. A couple of great ones here. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, one of my favorites on the N64 and Dreamcast back in the day. They remastered this for current gen consoles, and it was really, really good fun to revisit this game. Took me a couple months to get it, but man, if you played that back in the day, I still think it holds up. Control-wise, just an excellent racer, even if graphically it doesn't look so hot. Far Cry 3, originally played it on the Xbox 360 when they remastered it for current gen, replayed it on PlayStation 4, excellent stuff, still to this day remains my favorite Far Cry game. I think they just perfected not only the setting, the villain, the world design, taking out outposts, sinking the tower points, seeing where all the collectibles and other outposts were. It was just Far Cry 3 still stands the test of time. It's perfect in my eyes. If you haven't played a Far Cry game, no better place to start than 3. Miles Morales, another excellent game, a launch title for the PS5. Really enjoyed playing that over the holiday break as well, and perfect time to play it December, January, because it's set around Christmas time. And yeah, just good stuff. More Telltale, Batman. Troy Baker, I think, voices Batman in the Telltale series, and it's pretty good. It's no Walking Dead, more of a slower burn because it kind of takes the Arkham Asylum investigation type gameplay style and translates that to the point and click style of the Telltale series. So again, more of a slow burn, but if you've exhausted all of the other Telltale options like The Wolf Among Us and The Walking Dead, it's worth taking a look. Air Memories of Old. This is another interesting indie game where you're kind of navigating, like, think of Skyward Sword when you're in Skyloft, but more with a journey, flower, that game company type of graphical style, just exploring these different environments, collecting certain collectibles, lots of puzzle solving. That's Air Memories of Old. It's good time. Again, I got the platinum in a day. You can beat it in just a few hours. It's pretty good. The 2016 Ratchet & Clank, this is good fun. I actually replayed this game. Talk about determination in getting the platinum trophy. I'm actually going to click into this one because there was one trophy. Let's see. April 5th is when I unlocked the platinum. There's a trophy where you have to kill, I think, one of each enemy or two of each enemy. Trying to see here where it is. Yeah, I'm not sure where it is, but I ended up playing through this game 3 times, which sounds worse than it actually is because the Ratchet & Clank games typically have New Game Plus, so I was just kind of almost speed running the game in playthroughs 2 and 3 to make sure I knew where each of the enemies were around the levels, taking them out, and then finally the platinum popped after my 3rd playthrough. And this is good stuff. It's no Rift Apart, but if you like Ratchet & Clank, you really can't go wrong with that 2016 game on the PlayStation 4. Spyro 3, Year of the Dragon, to round out the Reignited trilogy. It took me a year, almost 2 years, to get this one. My least favorite of the Spyro trilogy, but it's more Spyro. I can't complain, and it looks great in that remaster trilogy. Tamarin. I've been wanting to do a series of 3D platformer hidden gem videos. This will eventually make it on that list. I won't go too into it, but think of it as a spiritual successor to Jet Force Gemini on the N64. Gorgeous environments that you're exploring, playing as a little Tamarin monkey, collecting a lot of collectibles, and it gets super weird in Jet Force Gemini fashion, where you go into these like warehouses, and this little Tamarin monkey, who's typically crawling on all fours, gets on his hind legs, has a little ray gun, and is blasting bugs to try and save his family. It's wacky, it's weird, but it's a lot of fun. So if you like 3D platformers, especially ones under the radar, Tamarin's worth checking out. The Pathless, this was a great game to get near the launch of the PlayStation 5. Created by the same company that made Abzu. Austin Wintory, who composed the soundtracks to both Journey and Abzu, reprises his role as the composer here. It's fantastic. Think Breath of the Wild meets Journey. Puzzle solving in the way of shrines in Breath of the Wild, but you're kind of navigating this world in a very kinetic fashion where you have this bow and arrow. Each time you hit these different things scattered around the world with your bow and arrow, it's almost as if the whole world is a skating rink, and you just kind of keep the momentum of your character navigating this world. You'll come to these different areas where they're very much like Zelda dungeons, like shrines. You complete them, fight these giant Shadow of the Colossus-like creatures. It's excellent stuff. Not enough people talk about the Pathless. It's just a hidden gem of the current generation, if you will. Very enjoyed it. I've actually been thinking about replaying that here soon. Check out the Pathless. Not too terrible of a platinum to get either. It's very much beat the game, collect the collectibles type of thing. This is jank Elder Scrolls, but actually not as bad as it sounds. Originally an iOS game, eventually ported to consoles. You have to do some kind of specific tasks and talk to certain characters, kill certain enemies out in the wild to earn the platinum. But if you like Elder Scrolls and you don't want to play 50 hours of Skyrim, check this out, because you can beat it in a few short hours and have a platinum to show for it. So it's pretty decent stuff. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, my goodness, one of the first games, in my opinion, to truly showcase what the PS5 could do graphically, with all the particle effects and going from environment to environment without any kind of loading screen. Such a blast to play. My wife is actually playing this for the first time now, so it's fun to kind of vicariously re-experience the game through her playthrough. Rivet, who you play alongside Ratchet, I think is the star of the show in this one. I hope that we see more of her in future Ratchet & Clank installments. I think her name is Jennifer Hale, who is a very popular voice actress in the video game space, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, among so many other games. She voices Rivet, and she's just terrific. So good stuff there. And a very easygoing platinum. It similarly with other 3D platformers, it's very much beat the game, collect the collectibles, and you're good to go. So excellent stuff there. Another indie gem, a 2D puzzle platformer, Grease or Gree. Outstanding game, visually very impressive with its watercolor aesthetic. If you're looking for a decent indie game that you can beat in a couple hours, 2D puzzle platformer, look no further. There's some specific trophies in here that you have to get that if you're not following a guide, you'll need to replay certain sections, but pretty easy going, all things considered. The Order 1886. You know, when you make lists, whether it's top 10 games of the year or top 20 lists for a particular console, and you look back on that list and kind of regret not including a certain game? The Order 1886 is one of those. People complained it was too short, it wasn't fun, the story wasn't great, whatever. This game, I think it was a near launch or a launch title for the PlayStation 4, and it has kind of this Van Helsing-like setting where you're fighting lichens and all kinds of stuff like that. Cover-based shooter similar to Gears of War. It's really good fun. I could see myself coming back and replaying this every couple of years to kind of get that Rainbow Six Gears of War type of third-person cover-based shooter fix. It's good stuff, and it should have made my top 25 PlayStation 4 games list. I don't remember the platinum being too difficult to get, but I think there were some specific trophies around kill X number of enemies with this type of gun, or get a certain number of headshots, or beat maybe certain levels in a certain length of time. There might be some kind of speed running light trophies, if I remember correctly. Otherwise, the trophies are just specific to beating certain chapters in the game. And even to this day, Order 1886 looks pretty dang impressive visually. Good game, decent plat. Donut County, another fun indie game. Highly recommend this one. You can probably get it for a couple bucks. You can play it on Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox now. But if you want a fun platinum with some interesting puzzle solving related trophies, look no further. Donut County is good fun. Another hidden gem 3D platformer, Gigantosaurus. I think this is based on a Netflix cartoon kid series with, as the name might imply, dinosaurs. Think kind of a modern day Land Before Time. Gigantosaurus the game has this weird fixed camera perspective that made navigating certain levels a little challenging. But if you're looking for another kind of underground 3D platformer with a trophy list that is very much just collect everything, this is a good one. There's even some like Diddy Kong racing type sequences between the major open world levels where you're fighting bosses, racing other people to get to the next destination or the next major level to kind of mix up the gameplay formula. Nobody talks about Gigantosaurus except for Ari Lewis 2011. It's worth checking out, and it's another easy platinum. Ghost of Tsushima, we talked about this earlier. This is one of the first, I think, and only times that I did an auto pop of a platinum from PS4 to PS5, where I just uploaded my save to my PS5 and unlocked the platinum. I did not do that for Miles Morales or Spider-Man, but more on that later. Hoa, this is another decent 2D side-scrolling puzzle platformer. Has big Studio Ghibli vibes with its graphical style, but also the music that plays while you're playing it. I say puzzle platformer, but it's more of just a platformer, side-scrolling, because the puzzles are almost offensively easy in this one, but don't let that stop you from playing it or picking it up if you can get it on a decent sale on PlayStation, Switch, or Xbox. It really is a decent little adventure, even if a little on the easy side. Arog won't go into. That's just one of those kind of cheapo plats. But I mean, look at the amount of time that I was playing some really strong games before going back and getting one of those I can get the plat in 30 minutes or less type games. Pretty proud of myself for that. A decent streak of time. The Five Covens, another I would consider hidden gem 3D platformer where you play as a witch. It's not great. Again, 3 hours and 51 minutes, and the physics and movement in this game are really floaty and don't feel super good. So if you don't like 3D platformers that kind of feel floaty and uneven, this one kind of takes some getting used to. And the trophies are very specific in this one. I think you have to speedrun this game, if I'm not mistaken. Beat the levels, get all the skills, throw boxes, just some random things like that. Finish the game without a single hit, complete the game in 30 minutes. So I think there's ways to kind of cheat the speedrunning trophy, but without getting hit and finish the game without dying, this will be something that you have to potentially restart in the instance that you get hit, which can kind of be cumbersome. But I mean, I did it in a couple hours, so clearly it wasn't too challenging to accomplish. But the Five Covens, again, a decent hidden gem 3D platformer. Kena Bridge of Spirits, my 2021 Game of the Year by a small studio called Ember Labs. Previously, they had only done animated shorts. I think they did one for Majora's Mask, and what a special game this was. Kind of Legend of Zelda meets Pikmin. Can be brutally challenging, though. Some of the boss fights are like Dark Souls levels of difficulty, and there is a trophy for beating this game on the hardest difficulty. However, when the game first launched, there was a way to kind of cheat that. They eventually patched that away so you couldn't do that. But my buddy Blink recently got the platinum because he missed the opportunity years ago. And as I understand it, there's another way to basically kind of glitch out of the level and respawn to the very end, and you can still beat it on the hardest difficulty without needing to do it properly. So if you're a trophy hunter and you were putting Kena Bridge of Spirits off because you knew you couldn't get the platinum, fear no longer. As of today, you can still get the platinum without needing to beat it on the hardest difficulty. But otherwise, just play Kena, because it's a banger of a game. Goosebumps, this is actually a pretty decent game if you want to play around the spooky season. It's very much like if you ever played Putt Putt Goes to the Moon, Freddy Fish, Spy Fox, those type of point-and-click adventures back on the PC back in the day. This is very similar to that, except kind of has more of a spooky vibe based on the R.L. Stine Goosebumps series of books. So, pretty decent game. And again, you can get the platinum in a couple hours. It's beat it and then doing very specific tasks within the game. So you want to make sure you have a guide up for that one. Flynn and Freckles, kind of a pirate-themed 3D platformer, another hidden gem, and another one I'd recommend to folks if you're buying stuff like the Five Covens or New Super Lucky's Tale, some of kind of the non-Mario AAA type 3D platformers. Flynn and Freckles is a pretty decent one. It's not great and it is a little jank, and some of the trophies are very, very cumbersome to get, but I did it in 4 months, so it wasn't too terribly challenging. And again, pirate-themed 3D platformer. It's good stuff. Pumpkin Jack, not a jank 3D platformer, but kind of more on the indie underground side. This one, reminds me more of a 3D platformer that could have come out on the N64 developed by Rare. And even the soundtrack kind of has Grant Kirkhope type themes to its music. It's a level-based 3D platformer. You can beat it in a couple of hours. Great to play around the spooky season, and the platinum is very easy to get. It's very much just, I sound like a broken record, but collect everything and beat the game. So good fun to play around the spooky season, and I think I ended up getting this one again, as we'll see later on. If there's one platinum that I'm probably ashamed to have gotten, it's Lady in a Leotard with a Gun. This developer has a number of these games on the PSN store. This person just keeps pumping these types of games out. They're goofy, psychedelic, kind of trippy with its graphical style, but as you can see, you can get the platinum in just a few short minutes. And it's not really a fun game. Something like Flynn and Freckles or The Five Covens, there's a game there that is genuinely fun, even though it's an easy platinum. The same can't be said for stuff like Lady in a Leotard with a Gun. It is very much just there for trophy collectors, so keep that in mind. And you can get it for like 99 cents. Kick It Bunny, Super Arcade Soccer 2021, Still Stand, and Pretty Girls Breakers, all easy, cheap plats. I think this is when I was like just losing my mind with how quickly Blink was surpassing me with platinums, and I just needed to get a couple easy ones in there to kind of keep pace. And I can't confidently recommend any of these games to anyone. You can get them all cheap, and you can get the platinum in an hour or less in all instances. And that kind of just kept going. Glaylancer is I think it originally came out on the Genesis. It was a side-scrolling shooter that is actually pretty decent, but has a very easy platinum, which I end up getting twice. Yep, you can see PS5 and PS4. And there's a way to do this without even playing it, which I wouldn't recommend because it is a fun game. But there's accessibility options that you can pre-configure in the beginning of the game and just walk away, come back in 40 minutes, and you got the platinum. So I did that for PlayStation 4. So Blink, this is my confession to you that I cheated, as I did many times with games like Pretty Girls Breakers. But Glaylancer, decent shooter, easy plat. Hidden Through Time is another fun one, even though it's an easy plat. Think Where's Waldo or I Spy, and an easy platinum. And that's what this game is, and it's pretty decent. There might even be 2 or 3 of these on the PSN store now, but I only got the first one. Wukong is another, I'm not even going to call it hidden gem 3D platformer. It plays more like a Crash Bandicoot game, so it's more kind of isometric, behind the shoulders view of the character, and you're running through these A to B type levels. It's really not that fun. A very dull soundtrack and some really cumbersome trophies too. But if you're a trophy hunter and you like 3D platformers, maybe pick it up on the cheap, but do not go out of your way to play this one. Whether for trophies or for fans of 3D platformers, I really didn't enjoy my time through it or playing it. Macrotis, A Mother's Journey. This is a very, very strange side-scrolling puzzle platformer with very challenging puzzles, at least for me. I basically followed a guide playing through the entirety of this game so that I could secure the platinum. Easy plat if you're following a guide, but if you're just playing on your own, it's a decent 2D puzzle platformer that has a pretty striking graphical style. Pumpkin Jack got again on PS5. Magus, one of the most goofy games I've ever played. If jank was ever listed in the dictionary, I would hope we'd see this goofball's face next to it in the dictionary, next to the word jank, because it's the epitome of that when playing this. It's, think a poor man's Infamous, where you have all these elemental abilities that you're shooting out of your hands, just mowing down waves upon waves of enemies, going through all of these dungeon-like levels. It's surprisingly fun. If you stream games, this would be one worth streaming. Pretty easy platinum as well. Miles Morales, played through this again on PlayStation 4, which means that I've beaten Miles Morales 4 times, because anyone that's gotten the platinum knows you have to beat the game on New Game Plus. So pretty dedicated. I love the Insomniac Spider-Man games. Crypt of the Serpent King Remastered. This is kind of like a first-person dungeon crawler. Kind of has a striking resemblance to Oblivion and Skyrim, but it's more of a first-person dungeon crawler than anything else. Easy platinum. If you follow a guide, you can get this pretty quickly. This is one I wouldn't recommend folks pick up if you're a fan of dungeon crawlers. There's much better options out there than this, but if you're a trophy hunter, you'll probably see this one on a lot of lists. Assassin's Creed Syndicate, one of my favorite Assassin's Creed games, set in London during the Industrial Revolution. You play as a brother and sister. It really kind of checks all of the earlier pre-giant open world RPG Assassin's Creed boxes, and it's one that doesn't take you forever and a day to beat. I got the platinum in 2 weeks. It is one of my top 3 Assassin's Creed games, so if you haven't played an AC game in years, you stop playing around Brotherhood 2, maybe 3, and you're looking to play an AC game before it goes open world RPG, Syndicate is where you want to go. It's so freaking good. Megamind, licensed little 3D platformer of sorts where you're kind of just playing through the events of the film. I'm ashamed to say this took 1 year and 5 months. I had, I think, 1 or 2 trophies unearned on this one, because I think one of the final levels, you have to play through the entirety of the level and beat the final boss without dying or without getting hit or something like that. And I tried it a couple times, couldn't do it, and shelved the game. And then naturally, because Blink is the man that he is, he earned the platinum and then sent me a screenshot and said, basically, I'm better than you. Like, really? You're going to leave a trophy unlocked on Megamind? Can you live with that, Rusty? And the short answer is no, I couldn't. And I very quickly put the game back in the PS3 and got the platinum. So thanks for the extra push and motivation, Blank. Puss in Boots is a goofy one. It's kind of an on-rails hack and slash little adventure. Tough to put into words. Look up some gameplay. If you're a fan of the Shrek films or Puss in Boots, it's decent enough. Not a game you want to go out of your way to pick up, but if you see it out in the wild at a thrift store or a garage sale for cheap, you might as well pick it up. If you're a fan of the films, you can get through it pretty quickly. It took me a while, similar to Megamind, but the trophy list is pretty easy, all things considered. Where the Bees Make Honey is absolutely terrible. You have to follow a guide. This is very much a game that is for trophy hunters and for trophy hunters alone. No one in their right mind would play this game for anything other than trophies. So I'll just leave it at that. Look up gameplay if you're interested in hearing more about it. Marvel's Spider-Man got the platinum after 3 years. That's actually kind of surprising to me. There was a lot to do in Spider-Man, so I'm shocked that it took that long for me, but I absolutely love this game. So much so that I got the remastered version for PS5, didn't pop the plat immediately. As you can kind of see, it took 1 year and 9 months to do it. And I love the game so much that as soon as I beat it on PS5 and got the plat, I did all the DLC, and then I beat the game on New Game Plus on the hardest difficulty. So, wild stuff. It's pretty determined, but I feel like, similar to the Uncharted games, I could play these games just like every year, revisit. Yeah, the story in the first game is set up so well, kind of set in 3 acts. They kind of build up the cast and all the supporting characters like MJ and Aunt May and the villains that are present, Doc Ock and others, so well. It's just fantastic stuff. One of my top 5 PS4 games for sure. My Name is Mayo 2. You can see it took 1 year and 9 months. This is about when I was tapped out of my rivalry with Blank, and I remember popping maybe half the trophies, and my name is Mayo too. And my wife came in and just saw me just frantically mashing the X button. And it got to the point where I'm like, hey, honey, this is just too much. I'm tired of pressing X. Would you mind basically swapping in and helping me out here? And she just kind of gave me a look like, you have got to be kidding me, Rusty. You want me to sit down and mash the X button so that you can get trophies in a game called My Name is Mayo 2 so that you can tighten the gap between you and your online friend Blink in this ridiculous trophy collecting rivalry? To which I quickly replied, yeah, you mind doing that? But once I kind of like started to settle in and think about not only what I was asking of her, but just how far down this rabbit hole of trophy collecting I had gone, I was like, no, this is nonsense. I can't keep allowing this to take a grip on me so tightly. But then a year and 9 months later, my brother-in-law came over, and as we were kind of getting closer, at this point, we were like 15 to 16 platinums away from 100. He's like, let's get you one last crappy platinum, and then we can start mapping out what you want to get in the lead up to 100 for that last like 15 or so. And I was like, okay. And Ryan got it on my behalf. I did not click X one more time in My Name is Mayo, nor will I ever. I think there's 3 or 4 of these now, but I will never get another My Name is Mayo. Clip it, post it, save it down. Rusty, not getting any more Mayo trophies. Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series, just wonderful remasters of the first 2 Klonoa games. Really enjoyed replaying the first, playing the second for the first time, and relatively easy platinums to get for those games there. Assassin's Creed 2, I won't go too into it during this video, but for those closest to me, for those that have been following my podcast for the past couple of years, I kind of had a resurgence of love for the Assassin's Creed series a couple years back, and so 2 being one of my favorites in the series, Ezio Auditore, oh gosh, what a great character, what an awesome game. Exploring Italy back on the 360 PS3 when this game first released was pretty mind-boggling. I mean, it was staggering. Graphically, the open world, climbing and scaling the buildings, it was really impressive for the time. Climbing the buildings and scaling them is very cumbersome and tedious nowadays compared to especially the RPGs that have come out since. But re-experiencing the story was still quite a bit of fun, and getting the platinum, while a few of the collectibles were a bit challenging to get and tedious, it was definitely worth it to have for my 100 plats. Toem, a really fun indie game where you're snapping photographs and kind of building out almost a Pokedex of sorts. Think Pokemon Snap, but you have the ability to kind of walk around these different environments, doing side quests for people and main quests that really require you to take photographs of certain things given very particular circumstances. So really good fun. A Short Hike, really easy platinum, a terrific indie game with an outstanding soundtrack. This is one I revisit pretty frequently just because the music in navigating that little island is just so relaxing. Great way to de-stress. Excellent game, easy plat. A Short Hike's good stuff. A Plague Tale: Innocence plays similar to The Last of Us. Not an easygoing or happy-go-lucky story, but pretty impressive graphically. A game I'd recommend to people. I still need to play the sequel, Requiem, and the platinum isn't too difficult, though you will have to have a guide to go back to certain chapters if you miss collectibles. So keep that in mind. Dark Souls Remastered, I have to thank my brother-in-law for helping me through this one. If it wasn't for his help, he has the Dark Souls games, Elden Ring, Bloodborne, Sekiro, the maps just like ingrained in his mind. He could probably play these games with a blindfold and still get through them. So he helped me collect all the collectibles, beat the game, and get the different endings. Otherwise, probably wouldn't have this as part of my 100 plats. But Dark Souls Remastered, an absolute classic, will go down as one of the greatest games, one of the greatest RPGs, I think, ever, and I think solidified the Souls-like genre going forward. Uncharted Drake's Fortune, the remastered version of the first game in the series. Loved revisiting this. I revisit the Uncharted trilogy, the first 3 games, pretty frequently. And just seeing where Nathan Drake and Elena's story started is, it's very wholesome. And these are just great games, in my opinion, even if you're kind of just mowing down a bunch of dudes and the early platforming isn't as tight as it is deeper into the series. They're still fun to replay. God of War Ragnarok, my 2022 game of the year. Beat it in a week, got the platinum in a week. This was one of those games where I just could not put down. Still need to go back and play the DLC, but really enjoyed seeing where Kratos and Atreus' story continued, and very interested to see where Santa Monica Studios takes the series next. And the platinum wasn't too bad. I think this platinum was a bit easier to get than the first God of War, which is why you're not going to see the 2018 God of War on my list. Tinykin may be my favorite 3D platformer ever. It is such a delight to play, wandering, exploring in kind of a Toy Story-like fashion, different rooms around this house. This little character named Milo crash lands into this person's home, and these little Tinykin that you collect are kind of like little Pikmin, where they have different abilities, and you use them to navigate these different rooms around the house to collect an assortment of collectibles, complete different side quests for characters littered around the different rooms, and the soundtrack is so freaking good. It's one of my favorites of this generation, one of my favorite games this generation, one of my favorite 3D platformers ever. So please check it out. KO the Kangaroo, a remake of a fun platformer, 3D platformer on, I think, the Dreamcast and PC back in the day. It's okay. It plays more similar to a Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex type of deal. So it's not like a Tinykin, New Super Lucky's Tale, or like a Mario Odyssey type of thing. But it's pretty good fun. A little bit of a cumbersome trophy list. And until recent patches, there were lots of glitches that certain trophies wouldn't unlock. So I think you're probably safe to play it now if you're going to go for the platinum. But early, when it first released, you had some issues with trophy unlocks. Tunic, outstanding indie game, very reminiscent of the earlier Zelda games on the NES, playing this as this adorable fox. Get your notepad and pen out for this one. You need to make sure you take lots of notes while you're playing this game to solve certain puzzles, but pretty easygoing trophy list, but you'll definitely need a guide for this one. One of my favorite games from 2022. Horizon Forbidden West, another pretty decent trophy list for another PlayStation first-party game. Continuation of Aloy's story. I think I preferred the story of Zero Dawn, the first game, but exploring Forbidden West graphically is so much more impressive. But thankfully, pretty easy trophy list overall. Still need to go play the DLC for this one as well, but pretty decent fun all around. Assassin's Creed Origins, continuing with my Assassin's Creed addiction. Origins set in ancient Egypt. This is, without a doubt, my favorite Assassin's Creed game ever. As the name implies, it takes you back to the origins of the Creed beginning. Bayek and Aya's story is very compelling. I was incredibly surprised just how gripping the story was beginning to end in this game, and exploring ancient Egypt is an absolute blast. This is the first game in that first kind of trilogy of RPG open world Assassin's Creed games, and I don't think they could have kicked off that RPG kind of change in gameplay style than with Origins. It's excellent stuff. The trophy list is not too cumbersome, very much. Beat the story, sync all the points around the world, do some combat-specific things, and collect the major collectibles in the world. If you're looking for a Assassin's Creed game to start with, that you want to sink a ton of time into, Origins is a great place to start. Wolfenstein: The New Order. So this is actually my, I believe, 95th platinum. So we're kind of at the very tail end here, the final stretch. And after I'd gotten some quick context, after I'd gotten the My Name is Mayo 2 platinum, that night my brother-in-law and I kind of sat down and started kind of figuring out like what are those final 15 or so platinums that we're going to get. And my mindset for it was very much like, what are some of my favorite gaming series? And so The Last of Us, Uncharted, certain 3D platformers, Kingdom Hearts, certain RPGs, Elder Scrolls Skyrim, as we'll get to here shortly, like all of those were top of mind. And so I must have had a list of like 20 or 30 games, certain series listed there as well. And I kind of just started chipping away to figure out like okay, now what's realistic? What do I already have representation of with my platinums to this point? And so I didn't have an Uncharted platinum yet, so that's why I ended up getting the first remaster. And that's kind of how these last 15 platinums came to be, if you will. And so the Wolfenstein: The New Order, I absolutely love the new Wolfenstein games. New Order, Old Blood, New Colossus, and hopefully the third and final installment in this trilogy of games that Machine Games will put out in the near future. It's been too long since New Colossus came out, and don't even get me started with Young Blood. That game was not good in my personal opinion. But New Order, kind of kickstarting Anya and BJ Blazkowicz's story off, was so good, very challenging. I think I had to beat this on the hardest difficulty, and it was very much like playing Uncharted on Crushing, or playing a precision platformer where it's just trial and error. You're going into certain rooms and you're kind of figuring out like where certain enemies are responding, conserving certain ammo types to make sure that you have certain guns available to take particular enemies out, crouching to the best of your ability, playing this game as stealthily as possible, because as soon as you start alerting guards, it just becomes overwhelming. But in terms of like overall satisfying, what platinum am I most proud to have, New Order is definitely up there. I will never get the platinum in New Colossus because you have to beat that on the hardest difficulty, and I think if you die, it's like permadeath or some nonsense. So I don't know why they did that, but New Order, it's tough, very rewarding when you get it, and it was great to replay it on the hardest difficulty for me. So excellent stuff. The Last of Us Part 1, this is the remake that Naughty Dog came out with a couple years back. It was good to replay this. There's no way I would ever get the platinum in the PS3 version of The Last of Us or the remaster on PS4. One, because I think you have to beat on the hardest difficulty. You have to do a ton of online stuff. It's a horrible trophy list, and I think Neil Druckmann has even come out and said as much. So thankfully, with Part 1, they simplified it. You can beat the game, I think, on the easiest difficulty, collect all the collectibles, and you pop the platinum. So very glad that this is part of my 100. Also have to thank my brother-in-law for helping me with Skyrim. He did a lot of the heavy lifting on this one. I, of course, beat the game, did a lot of the guild quests, and earned a lot of those trophies over the years. As you can see, it took me 5 years and 3 months to earn this, but some of the more challenging, grindy trophies, that's all my brother-in-law. He earned those for me. So I'm not ashamed to say that. It takes a village to get 100 platinums, in my opinion, especially some of these ones that are a little bit more challenging and a little bit more grindy. So shout out to you, Ryan. Thanks for helping me out, bro. This was not an easy one, but I'm really glad that you helped me get it. Continuing with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, this one's set in ancient Greece. A lot of fun. Really enjoyed playing as Cassandra and just playing through the events of this game, exploring that open world. Not as good as Origins to me, but still another great entry in the open world RPG Assassin's Creed series of games. The Last of Us Part 2, candidly, so I beat the game, didn't follow a guide when I originally played it because why would you? So most of my trophies were related to collectibles. And so when I replayed the game on New Game Plus, I skipped all the cutscenes because the game is just too heavy and I just wanted to pop the plat and for this to be part of my 100, and I didn't want to have to see the heavier moments. This game just beats you down relentlessly, and I didn't want to have to experience that. I just wanted trophies, and I did exactly that. So got that. 2 trophies remain. I think there's trophies for beating it on grounded mode, which I will never do. And then Platinum 100, my favorite game on the PlayStation 2, my favorite RPG, and my favorite game of all time, the first Kingdom Hearts. Another huge, huge shout out to my brother-in-law, because it is only because of him that I would have gotten this platinum. I probably would have gotten eventually Spider-Man 2 as my 100th, or some 3D platformer, excuse me, that I would have saved for 100, because there's just so much to do in this game that I did not have the patience for. So shout out to you, Ryan. He did, playing on Proud mode, he did a lot of grinding. He got Sora up to like level 65 or 70 for me, and then I got to the final boss, or he helped me get to the final boss, and then I beat the final boss rush on my own. He didn't do that for me. I had to earn that Proud completion trophy on my own, and that was the last one I needed to get the platinum, and that rounded out 100 platinums. 100 platinums. I was particularly proud of those final 15. Obviously, there's a lot of junk between Sly Cooper, the Thievius Raccoonist 12 years ago, and Kingdom Hearts in April of 2023. But one, I will say this: I don't regret going on this journey. I don't regret earning 100 plats by any stretch of the imagination. What I'd love to explore, either in a future solo video or in a one-on-one conversation with Blink, was just how I went about going to get those 100 platinums and the pace at which I got there. I think that would be a much more interesting conversation that we'll get to in a future video, but I think we are almost at 2 hours with this video, so we'll quickly rattle off the additional 4 platinums that I got. First up, Marvel Spider-Man 2. This pushed me over the edge. I came out of retirement and was absolutely worth it. Spider-Man 2 did not disappoint. Loved their take on the Venom character and introducing that into this universe. And it did take me a long time to get the platinum, because I was still on hiatus when I played Spider-Man 2 for the first time. And then I was just getting the itch to go back, and I did, and I got the platinum. So that brought me out of retirement. Clive and Wrench, a goofy little 3D platformer based on a solo developer. I've been following the development cycle for that for years. I had just a couple of trophies left in that as well, and got the platinum in that back in April. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, one of my most played PlayStation 4 games, 5 games ever. I think I've played this for 130, 140 hours. Similarly, the only 3 trophies I needed were to collect all the different types of fish, beat everyone in the little board game, the dice board game, and collect all the collectibles. Surprisingly, collecting the fish wasn't that big of a deal. Once you know a strategy to defeat them all, the dice game, not too bad. Collecting everything in this game would ruin a person. It ruined me. I took at least a year off of playing it because there was just too much. There is too much in that world for any sane person to collect, to get that trophy, to eventually get the platinum. But I never promised that I was a sane person when I started this video. So was it worth it? I don't know. But my goodness, Valhalla is such a freaking fun game. Becoming a Viking, exploring that world was such a treat. And so I don't regret getting it. I don't regret getting it. And then Operation Tango, an asynchronous multiplayer game that is an absolute blast, and I played it with my friend Blink. And so I'm so glad coming out of retirement that he and I finally secured that platinum, because years ago on his Twitch channel, we streamed that game, and it was one of the best times I've ever played or ever had playing a game co-op with a friend.
The yellow wire when Circuit 2 flashes. Huh.
Did we do it?
That bomb looks... Oh, that's a gold trophy, baby.
Save the
Come
world.
on.
Yes. Oh
Hmm.
my word, it feels good to be alive. Oh, we got 2 gold.
Busted. Get out of here. Get out of here, dude. It's nothing.
Ah, that just feels good. Look at this. We're getting our badges.
We did it. We are so
My.
fist bump indeed.
So, excellent stuff, my friends. That rounds us out. That is, again, nearly 2 hours of trophy talk and my road to 100 platinums. So we will put a stop to it there. And I will again say towards the end of this video, if you've stayed along for this entire journey, thank you so much for listening and watching. Please consider liking this video, sharing it with others. If you are a trophy collector yourself, maybe put in the chat below, the comment section, what are some of your proudest trophy accomplishments? How many platinums do you have? Do you think it's worth seeking out trophies and going out of your way to collect them? I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. And I'd also love to hear, are there other trophy related videos that you would be interested in hearing about? Whether it's double clicking into some of my rarest trophies, maybe my top 10 platinums that I'm most proud of, something to that effect. Let me know down below. But I want to thank you all so much for watching and listening to this video, and I'll hopefully see you real soon for more videos in the near future.